One of the biggest problems with football discourse these days is judging players without considering the tactical framework of the team they play in, especially since we all agree that no two teams play exactly the same way. So obviously a winger on a team that loves to cross the ball is going to whip in more crosses than a winger on another team that focuses on scoring goals, and this logic has never really applied to fullbacks when we talk about them, and not many fullbacks exemplify this than Liverpool's own Trent Alexander-Arnold. A year ago, Jurgen Klopp once again had his back. The German international said, yes, there are other situations where he was not aware, or there was a challenge he should have won. Every player has these challenges, but with him, every time it is picked up and analyzed, all the experts say this is a weakness. Honestly, I just don't get it. A world-class talent gets judged by the one thing he is not as world-class at. If he was not a good defender, he would not play. The Liverpool fullback is probably one of the most creative on the pitch, but his defensive game is also one of the worst. And I'm not alone in calling out the need for defenders who can, defend. But football is a game of trade-offs, so there's not really an easy answer. No fullbacks hit double digits in assists in the 2023 Premier League season. In fact, Trent Alexander-Arnold was the only player who came close with 9. And just 2 others managed more than 5. So out of 71 fullbacks with 500+ minutes, only 4% got more than 6 assists. Now tell me, are 96% of fullbacks in the league just bad at being fullbacks? In the past, the fullbacks of old were the deep defenders in 2-3-5 formations around the 20s, only shifting to the sides when the back four began to gain some popularity. But the setup defined fullbacks as defensive stalwarts, with small exceptions like the 1958 World Cup, when Nilton and Djalma Santos contributed more offensively in Brazil's national team. But despite the occasional flair, defending was their main responsibility in the 20th century. Their job was to stop the opposition with tackling and with good positioning. It was that simple, or it used to be. But football is a game of evolution, with fullbacks now being relied on to not just defend, but also become creative forces in the attacking phase. And in the last 4 years, we've seen a steady influx of fullbacks moving into the midfield or just staying back to act as the third center back. So what makes a great fullback? Well, whether a fullback can turn into a goal-scoring machine or a defensive brick wall depends entirely on how the team wants to play. Bayer Leverkusen's Alex Grimaldo and Jeremy Frimpong have a combined 27 goals and assists in 35 appearances at the time of writing. This is surprising considering they aren't even the world's best fullbacks, nor are they playing in the best attacking team in Europe. Xabi Alonso's team uses a back three formation which reduces defensive responsibilities for the wingbacks, who become the team's primary creative outlets. This means the wingbacks care less about defending and more about creating. This approach is similar to how Jurgen Klopp set up his team in 2020, where both Alexander-Arnold and Andy Robertson combined for 25 assists, while most of the defensive burden rested on the midfielders, who did the dirty work of breaking up play. Man United attempted a similar strategy during Solskjaer's first full season in charge. The Norwegian shifted the creative burden to Aaron Wan-Bissaka and Luke Shaw, before signing Bruno Fernandes a few months later. So, how do we judge good fullbacks? What makes them good? Again, this depends on how the team plays and if that fullback is doing his duties well. Look at Luke Shaw, Kyle Walker, and Alexander-Arnold, and how their defensive output as well as their offensive ones show very distinct patterns. Walker boasts the highest tackle success rate at 74%, outperforming Shaw's 70%, though not significantly, and Alexander-Arnold's 64%. But the Liverpool man shines in creativity, leading with an impressive 55 assists, while Shaw and Walker have 17 and 33 assists, respectively. Now, most offensive contributions in a team, especially for defensive players, mostly depend on the tactical setup of that team, more so than their defensive performances, because as defenders, they have to defend anyway, since it's their primary job. Shaw kind of stands out in this area with a 25% cross accuracy, surpassing Walker's 17 and just 1% lower than Alexander-Arnold's 26, who actually makes a lot more crossing attempts than your average fullback. But where the Liverpool right back is really good at is creating significant goal-scoring opportunities with a remarkable 93 big chances created. Shaw has 34, and Walker with 32. Then there's Joao Cancelo, another one of Pep's specialist fullbacks, trailing in assists with only 11 in total, while having a lower number of appearances in 98, all with 22 big chances. Each player brings their strengths to the table. Purely based on their numbers, Shaw is a solid defender with a knack for crossing accurately. Walker is a tackling and assisting machine, and Alexander-Arnold is a creative maestro. They should be judged on these strengths alone, and the context of the team they play in. Comparing fullbacks based on assists doesn't make sense. This metric is heavily influenced by their role in a specific tactical system. Klopp wants his fullbacks crossing very often because they're very, very good crossers, but Guardiola wants the exact opposite. You see the distinction here? Gary Neville is one of the greatest fullbacks in English football history, made 400 league appearances for Man United, winning 8 league titles and lifting 2 UCL trophies. But despite his longevity and success, he only managed to register 35 assists. That's 1.75 assists per season on average. Denny Irwin, widely regarded as one of the greatest left-backs in English football, made 368 league appearances for United and won 7 league titles. But his assist numbers were underwhelming, averaging just 0.8 assists per game across 10 seasons for United, with only 22 assists in total. His only season with more than 6 assists came with Wolverhampton Wanderers in the second tier. So of course tactics were a lot different back then, and fullbacks weren't expected to be creative geniuses. But has much really changed? How many fullbacks in the world are consistently racking up more than 10 assists per season, despite their increased attacking responsibilities?